College Football 25 is coming out. Let's guess the Maryland's highest rated players.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. The college football game is coming out, and I wanted to make sure to give my top 5 highest rated players on the Maryland team. In my opinion, this is what I think the top 5 Maryland players should be, the top 5 highest rated players going into next season. I could not be more excited for a video game to come out. I used to play a lot of video games. I used to play a lot of Madden, a lot of NBA games. I was always a big sports gameplay type of guy, and I still jump on the NCAA 14 on the Xbox 360. Even so, today with the new Xbox and everything going on and the new game still coming out, I usually love to play on NCAA and run and Dynasty mode. I think NCAA 14 is one of the best games, and I think this college football game has a chance to really break the internet. I think this game could be crazy cool. I think just how long we haven't had a college football game, I think this game means a lot, and I'm going to be talking about it a lot, just giving my predictions on what Maryland players are going to be rated. This is just my first one that I'm going to do right before the spring. I'm going into the spring ball since that's coming up really soon. We got the spring game. They're starting spring practice. They're in their lift schedule. The spring is really important, but overall, I could literally not be more excited for a college football game. I think it's really going to be known as one of the best games of all time, just because of how long we haven't had college football games and just how cool college football games can be. I mean, we're used to having the Maddens, but just having a college football game with an extended college football playoff and all the teams opted in, it's going to be a really cool thing. It was really cool to see all the teams saying on their Instagram that we are in the game. EA Sports has done an awesome job at marketing it. I just hope the game plays right and they get everything right. But it seems like everything is going into this game, and this game is going to make them a lot of money. It seems like every player is opting in, basically. I haven't heard of a player that's not going to be in the game. Maybe we'll hear about that a little bit later, but it seems like pretty much everyone wants to be in the game. And I wanted to let you guys know what my ratings are for the top 5 highest rated Maryland players on this list. Let me know also what you guys think are going to be the top 5 highest rated Maryland players on the EA Sports Madden game. And here are the guys in the mix for me. I had Roman Hemby in the mix, Caden Prather, Ty Felton, Ruben Hippolyte, Dante Trader, Jordan Phillips, Donnell Brown, maybe Quayshawn Fuller, maybe Tommy King Basote. All those guys were in the mix for me. Maybe you could even add a Glendon Miller into that mix. All those guys were in the mix for me to be in that top 5 highest rated Maryland players in college football 25. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this out the way. I think they're going to disrespect some of our ratings. I know people aren't going to be happy with where our players are rated at, but let's get into it. My number 5 highest rated player on this list. And this is how I would do it, not how I think they're going to do it. This is how I would do it if I was part of the rating system people at EA Sports. My number 5 player is Caden Prather, and I think he will be around an 82 overall is my best guess. He could be lower, could be higher. But I think Caden Prather is my 5th best player going into next year. I think if you look at it, just what he did last year in terms of his production, what he did coming from West Virginia, he had a lot of really good games and a lot of really big plays for Caden Prather. And I think that the EA Sports people, I think they love kind of looking at these type of guys. I think they love kind of rating Maryland I think they'll like rating Maryland receivers pretty high just because of our track record at receiver overall with Stephon Diggs and DJ Moore. So I think if any position group gets a highly rated, a lot of highly rated guys, I think it's our receiver room. And I think Caden Prather deserves to be around an 82, 83, which for a Maryland team, we probably won't have anybody in the 90s is my best guess. I doubt we have anyone in the 90s. So like an 82 rated player, a lot of people might think that's not that good, but for a team like us, it could be a pretty good rating just because they could disrespect us overall. But we know Caden Prather's a big play machine. I can see him having a really highly rated spectacular catch and catching rating. And then maybe his route running is not as good of a rating, but that's kind of how I see it. I see him about at an 82. Let me know what you guys think Caden Prather is. But I can really see him being a big red zone threat in the game and being a jump ball type of guy in that game just because you know what he did last year with his 6'4" body. And I think he could be a fun player to throw to if you're using the Maryland football team. My next guy on the list at number 4 is another Maryland receiver as well. Like I said, I think these receivers are going to get pretty good ratings just because of how much we threw the ball last year, the track record of Maryland receivers. I can just see the receivers getting highly rated and probably our highest rated position group maybe going into next year. But I think Ty Felton's an 84. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I think Ty Felton deserves to be an 84. I think Ty Felton's the most talented receiver on our team. I think Caden Prather's extremely talented as well, but I think Ty Felton's a little bit better than Caden Prather at this point just because of what he did last year, how he broke onto the scene. I think Ty Felton is going to solidify himself as one of the better receivers in the Big Ten next year. He has a chance to get drafted. He had 48 receptions, 723 yards last year, and 6 touchdowns. He was a big play machine. He's got that perfect kind of body type you want at receiver. He's 6'2", about 190, 185. So he's got a lot of that going for him. And the thing that I think is that hopefully EA Sports does him well in is his speed rating. Ty Felton has some speed. He's got some gas in his legs. He can run. He's got some jets for sure. And I also think he can separate. I think he should have fairly high route running. I don't think there should be anything that's a clear weakness in Ty Felton's game. I can see them disrespecting his catching ability in the game, but I think Ty Felton at about an 84 after being an all Big Ten type of player, after putting up 723 yards, 6 touchdowns, having some humongous games like 5 receptions for 140 yards against Rutgers, 5 receptions against Michigan as well, 5 receptions against Nebraska for 73 yards and a touchdown, 4 receptions for 75 yards against Penn State. Like, he's had some big games, and I think he deserves to be around an 84, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's lower. I'll be interested to see who's higher rated between Caden Prather and Ty Felton, but I think that could be interesting to see what can happen with that. My next highest rated player, we go over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going Ruben Hippolyte. Ruben Hippolyte is my 3rd highest rated player. I think Ruben Hippolyte will be around an 85. I don't think we realize how good of a year Ruben Hippolyte had last year. He arguably was our best linebacker last year. I know a lot of you guys probably thinking, what about Jayshon Barham? Obviously, Jayshon Barham's is transferring and he's over at Michigan now. But I think if you look at it and the ratings, or not the ratings people, but the people who do the all Big Ten, the media and the coaches and whatever, they had Ruben Hippolyte as 3rd team all Big Ten, and Jayshon Barham was honorable mention all Big Ten. So if you really are looking at it in that way, Ruben Hippolyte had a better year last year than Jayshon Barham. Jayshon Barham might be more talented, but I think Ruben Hippolyte's also really talented. And him coming back for a last season and a last ride for the Maryland team, I think Ruben Hippolyte will have some really good attributes. He's a good athlete. I think he can have solid speed at the linebacker position, which is a really big deal when you're playing with those type of guys, if you're using the linebacker, which I know some of you guys know about. So I think Ruben Hippolyte could be our 3rd highest rated player. He was 3rd team all Big Ten, like I said, last year, and he had a really good Music City Bowl game. I see him being around an 85 overall, which I think is a pretty good spot for him, and I think he's one of our highest rated players. our second highest rated player on defense. I'll get into the other highest rated one in a second. And then going back to the offense, I think Roman Hemby should be an 85. Roman Hemby didn't have much of a huge production year last year. It's kind of a down year. But I just look at his skill set and what he did 2 years ago, and I think he's just too good not to have in our top 5 rated players going into next year. I see Roman Hemby as about an 85 because of the versatility he brings. I think in the game he'll be able to have a pretty high receiving ability from the backfield, and then he can also run the ball. I think they'll give him solid speed stats, nothing crazy, solid agility, solid all that type of stuff overall, and I think he will make it to a pretty good running back that will be pretty fun to use in the game. We'll see. Hopefully they don't do him dirty with his rating just because he had a kind of a down year because the potential is there overall. But I see Roman Hemby as about an 85. And then my last player on the list is Dante Trader. I think Dante is going to be our highest rated player. I think Dante is going to be around an 86 overall with his speed, with his agility, with everything that he has, the way he moves, the way he can cover, the way he can come up and hit in run defense. I think Dante Trader is going to be our highest rated player going into next year. I think he's an NFL type of player. I think he had a really good year at spots last year, and I think overall Dante is definitely our highest rated player going into the game next year. I could be completely wrong. I could have missed someone. Let me know if you guys have someone that should be on the list that I didn't put on the list. But in my opinion, those are my top 5 highest rated players right now going into the spring for the college football EA game. Like I said, I can't wait for this game to come out. I think it's going to be an extremely cool game overall, but we'll see what happens. We'll see where the Maryland players are rated. Actually, I would like to see what the players think they're rated as well, but that's kind of my rating for the new college football game overall. I want to give my spring practice for the Terps and give some position battles and some question marks that I have, just some early thoughts on spring football practice for Maryland football. I will get into that after this ad from FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That sounds like a good deal to me. $150 in bonus bets with just any winning $5 bet. It sounds like something you have to do. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. So if you want to bet Steph Curry over in threes, or if you're a DMV sports fan and want to bet the Wizards to win, or if you're a Lakers fan and you want to bet on LeBron and the Lakers to win and Anthony Davis, or whatever you want, quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NBA. Spring practice is here for Maryland football. What are some of the question marks? What are some of the position battles overall? I want to give a quick outlook about everything kind of going on in the spring. Not everything, but just some things that I'm going to be looking at, and I'm curious when the spring games comes around and all those different things come around for the Maryland football team. I'm going to dive into stuff a lot deeper individually on the podcast, but this is just a quick overshadow of all the different quick thoughts that I have on basically probably most positions that we're looking at. Obviously, everything starts with this quarterback battle. This quarterback battle is interesting because this is like a real quarterback battle, and we haven't had one of those in a while just because we've had Talia. And not having a quarterback battle, honestly, sometimes is a good thing because you know who your guy is and you know what they say. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have 1 quarterback. And so I'm looking at this quarterback battle, and we got 3 guys right now, and I legitimately don't know who's going to win this battle. I want to be like MJ Morris is the favorite, but I think Cameron Edge is a really good player. I think Billy Edwards is a really good player. And my initial thoughts on how I would rank those guys, on how the Maryland team wants to play, I'd probably go MJ, Cam, and then Billy Edwards. But I want to see the spring game overall. I think Cameron Edge really could win this battle. I really like Cameron Edge. If you guys don't know, I love Cameron Edge. I love his game. I've talked to him. I've interviewed him. He does some really good things on the football field, and I think we can play the way that we've played last year with Talia, with Cameron Edge. He's not as mobile as the other two guys. Billy Edwards brings something completely different. Billy Edwards should be in your game plan no matter who the quarterback is, but I don't know how consistent Billy Edwards can be throwing the ball to give us a shot to win games overall. So that's going to be a big thing. How good is MJ Morris? Could Cameron Edge potentially be the starter? Could Billy Edwards be a potential starter? Who wins that battle? Who overall is the best guy in that room? That's the headline of this Maryland football team. A lot of people in the Big Ten are going to care about who is going to win that Maryland quarterback battle, and that's going to be the biggest thing that contributes to us winning games, obviously, is the quarterback position overall. So we'll see how that goes. Can the team be successful without Talia overall? I want to talk about the secondary. The secondary is a really big one. Tarheeb, Jaquan Shepard gone, Bo Braid gone. Who steps up? Is it going to be the young guys? Could Perry Fisher potentially grab one of that role? I love what I saw from Perry Fisher in the bowl game, in the Music City bowl game. He looked really good as well. Maybe young guys like Braden Lee could potentially step up. Could Lionel potentially step up and play and be a guy that starts at outside corner? We know Glendon Miller probably is operating the slot. And then you also got to look at the safety position. Who's going to start for Bo Braid? Is Brandon Jacobs going to be playing as a freshman? I don't know. We'll see. Does Glendon Miller move up to safety? I think the secondary is a huge thing. And we got some teams that like to throw the ball in the Big Ten. This year we play Oregon. They look like they have a really good receiver room, and they just got two transfer quarterbacks that are really good players overall, and Dante and Gabriel coming over from Oklahoma, and then Dante coming from UCLA, Dante Moore. And so Gabriel will probably be the starter, I'm guessing, from Oklahoma, but there's a lot of good other teams that would play. USC, we know, always loves to throw the ball, and they got some really good players. So that secondary is going to be important overall. Is our defensive line elite going into the spring? I keep thinking in my head, like, this defensive line is a really good unit. We didn't really lose anyone up there. And so whenever you don't lose someone up there, you expect guys to get better. You expect there to be experience, and you expect it to be a pretty good group overall. So I think this defensive line unit should be really good. I don't know exactly. That's my question. Going into spring, is this defensive line unit elite? I think they should be good, but we might need them to be elite because it might have to flip-flop with the secondary this year. Last year, the secondary was clearly a strength. The defensive line unit, it was like meh. Might have to flip-flop. The cornerback room and the secondary and the safety spot might have to be meh, and then the defensive line unit might have to take a step up this spring. I'm going to be looking at that in the spring game. I think that's going to be important because we have a bunch of guys returning up there, whether it's Donnell Brown, Quayshawn Fuller on the edge, Kellen Wyatt on the edge, and then you got Jordan Phillips inside, and then you got Tommy King-Basote inside and a bunch of other guys inside, and you got other guys coming back from injury. I think of a freshman like Neo Avery potentially on the edge. You got dudes up there that have been there, that have played pretty good football last year. I thought Donnell Brown played really good football. Quayshawn Fuller has a ton of talent. Kellen Wyatt's been playing since he's a freshman. So it's like, I don't know when our defensive line is supposed to be really good, but it could be this year. Is it an elite group this year? That's something I'm asking going into the spring overall. And then the linebacker room, no Barham is a question mark for me. Is there enough firepower in that room? We relied on Barham for a lot of big plays, a lot of sacks. Sometimes he just rushed the passer, and that goes with the edge group and the defensive line group overall. But no Barham. Can these guys step up and play really good football? As an experienced group, that's probably a lesser question, but I do want to bring up the point that we don't have Jayshawn Barham. Can other guys step up? Ruben Hippolyte now will be the number one, and then you got Caleb Wheatland, and you got Gote as well. Will those guys be able to play really good football and be the type of guys that we're going to need them to be in the linebacker room? Wide receiver room is interesting. Ty Felton and Caden Prather clearly are headlining that room. Jayshon Jones is gone. He's off to, I guess he's trying the NFL, but Jayshon Jones is gone. Does Octavian Smith become your 3? Can Octavian Smith take a jump up? I expected a bigger jump up last year from Octavian Smith. But now going into his junior year, it's like you got to be a guy, Octavian Smith. You're really talented. And then there's also guys like Ryan Manning, who was a freshman last year, who I know the staff is really high on him, and I think he was pretty high in the depth chart last year for freshmen as well. And then Shalik Knotts, too. What does that room look like? Who contributes outside of Ty Felton and Caden Prather? Can we get a consistent another guy in there? Those are kind of question marks. And then obviously the offensive line as well, always going to be a question mark. We got a couple transfers in there. We lost a lot of guys. How well will that group be up front? There's a lot of question marks going into this year, but we'll see how those look in the spring. I'm really excited for the spring game. It gives me football to talk about, but that's not for a while. But that's some of the stuff that I'll be looking at and just reading about and seeing what is going on with the Maryland football team, but the quarterback room being the big one. The NFL Combine is here. Let's talk about the Terps. How can they solidify themselves at the NFL Combine? I will tell you about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute, like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I have been there before. I hate buying tickets to different games, but because it shouldn't be so stressful. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. And the Gametime app, I found it, and it's a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on the tickets right up to the start of the event. So please download the Gametime app. I'm telling you guys, it really helps finding all the different types of tickets you need. And they also have tickets even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app and use code VEGAS100 for $100 off the big game ticket. Download the Gametime app today. So the NFL Combine is here. It's going to be going on over these next couple of days. I've heard a bunch of national news about it. But how can the Terps solidify themselves at the NFL Combine? We're going to start getting into the testing, the 40s, all that type of stuff, the individual drills, quarterbacks throwing, and I still wish that Talia was at the Combine. I would have loved to see Talia rip it around at the Combine and see what he's made of and see what he can do out there on some of the deeper routes that they do. I think that would have been really cool. I've been really interested in the Combine, but I still love watching the Combine. I don't know if I'm just kind of weird, but I like watching the quarterbacks throw. I like seeing the 40 times. I think it's all really interesting in terms of how GMs value everybody and how they look at their board, how it changes their board. I think the Combine's really cool, and I think it's a chance for Maryland players to solidify themselves as either guys that are going to get drafted or guys that are going to slip or guys that aren't going to get drafted at all. We have 4 players invited to the Combine this year: Tarheeb Still, Delmar Glaze, Bo Braid, and Gottlieb Ayizde. And it's interesting because there's a kind of a different narrative for all 4 of these guys. Right now, I would say 2 of them I'm like pretty certain are going to get drafted, in Delmar Glaze and Bo Braid, but all 4 need good combines to solidify themselves in the draft or solidify themselves out of the draft if they don't have a good combine overall. I think all 4 of them can improve their draft stock, and I think these are 4 guys. These guys aren't like first-round guys. It's not like Deontay Banks last year with, if he had an kind of combine, obviously a big part of him getting drafted was him having a good combine. But if he had just a pretty good combine, he still probably would have went second, probably maybe still first round overall. So I'm looking at these guys. If they test well, it's going to be important to pushing them up, because I don't see any clear first-round guys that can test poorly and still get drafted high. Like if Caleb Williams, even though he's not throwing at the combine and all that, I don't know if he's running the 40. I just saw that he's not throwing. But if a guy like that doesn't test well or whatever, it's kind of like we see the tape. But guys like the Maryland players, guys that aren't going first, second round, you got to test well. And it starts with Bo Braid. I think he could possibly get to the 4th or the 3rd round if he tests well. I've seen people project him at second round. I doubt it. It's a weak safety class, which kind of helps him in a case because it's like you are one of the higher rated safeties. I've seen him be in people's top 5 safeties, but I think the safeties start going off the board in like the 3rd round. But I think Bo Bray could potentially go maybe third round if he tests well, maybe 4th round. And then if he doesn't, he could slip to like 6th, 7th, 5th round overall. Right now, I think it's going to come down to, I don't know how fast he is. He has game speed, but in a 40-yard dash, I don't know how fast he is. I'm curious if he'll run in the 4.5, if he'll be a 4.5 kind of guy. That's kind of my guess. I don't see him as a 4.4 guy, but I can be completely wrong. I really don't know how fast he is exactly. Maybe he's a 4.4, a later 4.4 guy. But I don't know. Maybe he's in the 4.4. Maybe he's not in the 4.5s overall. I don't know. We'll see. But if he runs in the 4.4s, like low, like mid 4.4s, he's in a good spot, I think, overall. But we'll see how he tests at the combine. And then Delmar Glaze, kind of similar to Bo Braid. I think Delmar Glaze is a pretty good shot at getting drafted. I think you probably put him in the 5th round, 4th round right now with a good combine. Maybe could jump to the 3rd round. Maybe could jump to the 4th round. I don't know exactly where people see him right now, but all that different stuff, all the different testing, strength stuff, all that type of stuff, the bench press, all that kind of stuff that you see people do is going to be important for Delmar Glaze. Obviously, the 40, they like to see how athletic you are, but he's put up a lot of good years on film for people to see and scouts to see overall. So I see him getting drafted pretty high. And then Tarheeb still is interesting because I don't know right now if he would get drafted. I think he should be. I think he's going to be a great pickup for someone's camp if he doesn't. But if he starts to do some freakish stuff at the combine, then you could potentially get into that 7th, 6th round talk. I have no idea where Tarheeb still's valued at. If you're getting invited to the combine, they think you have a pretty good chance at getting drafted, but I don't know where they value him. It just depends. Testing well for him and also Gottlieb Beasley is going to be important. I will make sure to talk about how they will test. I don't know the exact schedules, but it's starting like in these next days or so. I think today is like a lot of people report and stuff, but I'm excited to see what happens at the combine, how the Maryland players test, because I don't think they'll be able to match up with last year what some of our guys did, but overall, I do want to see what our guys do this year. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball, so make sure you subscribe. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.